Let me start by saying that I am so happy to be here. I am proud to stand here as the Democratic nominee for mayor of the city of Philadelphia, sixth largest city in the nation and the birthplace of democracy. To everyone who supported our campaign, who I was not able to celebrate with on election night, I do have one thing to say, and that is, together, we did it. We did it together, and I'm excited about that. Our message has taken hold across the city, but most importantly in the neighborhoods and the communities who are closest to the pain of gun violence, neighborhood blight, struggling schools, and quite frankly, a lack of economic opportunity. Now, with our win, to me, these communities, they are now closest to the power. And the message is important because what we did was we ignited a belief that, and you would often hear me say on the campaign trail that I had the audacity to believe that Philadelphia can be the safest and cleanest big city in America, and that we can close the gap between the haves and have-nots, and that we can literally restore hope and pride back to our city again. So that's relative to the campaign. Now let me get to the health and the root canal. If you Google root canal in our area, it is pretty popular right now. Let me just give you a tad bit of history here. Back in February, I found out that I had a root canal from about 25 years ago that had actually fractured. And I want to just note that, and I have to say this for the record because my dentist, and you will never know who he is, but my dentist has said, this is not fair. You have to tell them that I advised you. So let me say this. My dentist recommended oral surgery immediately, told me that there was no way that I could save the tooth. And I said, I hear you, I respect you, I appreciate you, but there is no way that I can stop right now. In the midst of this campaign, we had multiple forums, we had multiple debates, and quite frankly, we were very focused on crisscrossing the city. And so I said, can you just help me get through right now? And that meant, you had to take an antibiotic to ensure that no infection would actually build up in your body. Against his wishes, he said to me, yes, we have to do that anyway, but I could not wait until after the primary election. So it was actually, people have said, oh wow, that night she went and had a dental emergency. No, the surgery was not on election night. I had surgery the Friday before the election, and the tooth was literally removed. Now, in typical Cherelle Parker behavior, I left forgetting that I was still numb, and I was like, oh, I can do this. And I continued with the full schedule that evening. Some of you may have even seen me on the trail, but it became clear that I needed to get that surgery, and I did that on Friday. I talked about keeping a full schedule that Friday evening, and you will remember that weekend was GOTV weekend. How was I going to rest and be at home during GOTV weekend? We couldn't afford it, and we were able to get through it. I needed to campaign, and I did not give myself time to heal. I want to acknowledge that publicly. I did not. So by the time the polls closed on election night, everything literally caught up with me. And I had to stop. Not because Cherelle Parker said stop, but because my body said, you will stop right now. And that's when I went. I checked myself in at the University of Pennsylvania hospital. It was there, unfortunately, while everyone was enjoying the excitement of the results coming in. I had some company, maybe not the company I wanted. But I can remember while I was in the ER, the doctor came in and he said, well, they seem to be having such a great time without you. Talking about the headquarters. He said, and you're here with me. I was released that early that morning, and I am nearly back at 100%. Right now, I have to go back. For those of you who've had dental work, you know you have to go back for follow-up, and so I will be taking care of that. The next thing I want to address is the meeting with our governor, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro. For those of you who are familiar with me, you know that I have been a coalition builder and an organizer all of my life. And I know the power of delivering tangible results at all levels of government directly to the people of our great city. And I also know how important it is to have a strong relationship with our Harrisburg leaders. And so today, meeting with our chief executive here in the Commonwealth, it was no coincidence. It was very intentional that he be the first executive that I had the opportunity to sit down and talk with. Cherelle, what did you and the governor talk about? We talked about ways to find bipartisan support to fund some of our biggest initiatives that include public safety. I mentioned to the governor that, God's will, and you all know I will not take my foot off the gas. We have a general election to get through in November, and we're going to be working hard to earn the vote of every Philadelphian to ensure that we can do so. But restoring our police department to its full complement, and that means using every tool that we can to make sure we get officers on the job. In addition, making sure that we have those 300 foot patrol and bike officers that you heard me talked about so much. Community policing being an essential part of our campaign. We also talked about one of my children, my baby, PHLTCB, which will be the tool that we attempt to use, we will, to eliminate the Philadelphia moniker that has had such a strong grip on our city, and we need to be, picking up trash on sidewalks and on our streets, and we need to do that around the clock. So sanitation, when you think about sanitation workers and their pickup, that will have to increase dramatically in order for us to allow Philadelphians to see a culture of trash and be changed in our city, and we're going to work to do that. The next thing that we talked about was economic opportunity, funding support for small businesses, raising the minimum wage, and using resources at an intergovernmental level. How do we access federal, state, and even local resources and leverage them all to ignite equity investments? Notice that you did not hear me talk about loans. If you talk to business owners, particularly in Black and brown communities, access to a loan is not what has prevented them from growing. It's been access to equity capital to give them the opportunity to grow. And finally, and the governor and I, and this has been the case, and for those of you who don't know, he and I have worked together for many, many years, and his love for public education, my love for public education as a former English teacher, those shared values, they go back a long ways. And we talked about the Commonwealth Court decision. We talked about the potential resources that are needed to address the infrastructure challenges here in our city, particularly with the building of our schools. We talked about being innovative and creative with our scheduling for education and how we deliver public education in the city. And finally, there not being sort of an us versus them, perspective as it relates to advocacy for public education in the city, but doing our best to make sure we're focused on quality seats with quality instruction in 21st century modern buildings. And finally, he and I talked about working together, establishing a work group with key state officials and members of the administration, and I'm excited about that. I'm going to right now, I do want to go through this last bullet. 2, I'll skip because somebody's going to ask a question and I want to have to repeat myself, so I'll save it to respond to your question. But I want to mention this. A lot of people have asked me, aside from your health, Cherelle, and feeling better, what do you feel that the most pressing issue is that you face right now as the Democratic nominee for mayor of the city of Philadelphia? And I have been very clear in affirming that right now, this is the unifying moment here in our city. I don't care who you voted for. I don't care what section of the city you live in, your zip code, what your political philosophy or ideology is. Our democratic process, we work through it. We now have the results, and we need all of Philadelphia to unify in order to move our city forward. And with that being said, I want to note that one of the hallmarks of my time as an elected, it has always been to bring people together who don't always agree on everything. And this was something that you have to blame on Harrisburg, where I didn't have a luxury of saying either it's my way or the highway. I literally had to do things the old-fashioned way. Sit down and have a conversation with people and figure out how we get to yes. And that didn't stop during our campaign. They are not here, but I want to say to my former colleagues who suspended their campaigns and who were very much involved in helping us to get to this point. As former council member Derek Green, a longtime friend, colleague, and quite frankly, we worked together. For the boss lady of all boss ladies, Councilwoman Marion Tasco. DG, I'm so grateful for your support. Maria Quinones Sanchez, MQS. I want you to know that I am excited and looking forward to working with you all, and also to the other candidates. I am so grateful that we had such a competitive environment. People have said to me, Cherelle, that it was 1,000 people running for mayor of Philadelphia. Did you like it? I love the idea that people had a chance to hear different perspectives, to hear different prescriptions being offered as solutions to problems facing our city. I thank each of them for rolling up their sleeves and doing what Roosevelt would say, getting in the arena of standing up to the scrutiny, answering the questions, and putting their best foot forward. To each of them, I want you to know I thank you so very much. I did have a 2 or 3 day lag as a result of our health challenges, but they do know that we will all be getting together, because I will be looking forward to working with each and every one of them, along with our legislative leaders at the local, state, and federal level. With that being said, I want to take a few questions, and I'm sorry?
Let me help you kind of identify.
Excuse me. Let me see here. I just saw someone. Oh, a gentleman was here and he had his hands raised. Where was the Tribune? Somebody was here and they just had their hands raised. They must have disappeared that fast. Yes.
Can you talk a little bit more about what brought you to the hospital on Tuesday night? I know you said your body was making you stop. Was it pain? Was it dehydration?
It was pain that goes like this. Throbbing, just intensely, and I knew that it was not something that would allow me to do what I love, and that was one. I wanted to see the results in real time. But more important to me that night, especially when seeing what the results were, I wanted to jam, and I couldn't jam that night because my jaw was thriving, and it required that I go to the hospital.
And you've been treated and you're not experiencing pain anymore?
Well, no, I do have to do follow up because I think that there's some more things that I need to work on. But we're doing well.
With a low voter turnout, 27% or so, and the number of votes that you won, do you believe that you've been given a mandate to leave? And what's your message to those who either didn't vote or didn't vote for you?
Let me note for the record, and Jeff, I appreciate that question, and it's actually a very good one. We had a higher turnout than the last open mayoral primary. Let me state that for the record. I want to just say that one more time because sometimes when people read things in the paper, those facts aren't quite as clear as we would like them to be. We had higher turnout than the last open mayoral primary. However, turnout should be much higher than the 27% that we saw last week. And I would argue to each of you that is why this meeting today with Governor Shapiro was essential. Low turnout to me equates to apathy, frustration, lack of hope, believing in government, and they don't feel that a difference. Go vote why. Now, I'm not ever telling you that I believe that is an excuse. It is not an excuse, but I know I will be super focused, intensely focused on ensuring that people, Philadelphians, get a chance to see their tax dollars at work in their neighborhoods, and that will help to make them believers. Finally, I wanted to say this. I did get some calls and text messages from some people who says, Cherelle, your old council district, the 9th district, they really showed up and showed out and supported you. Your old state house district boundaries, you really got a lot of support there. Listen, I want to be very clear. The reason that is, it doesn't happen through osmosis. It's because the people who live there, they have grown accustomed to making a connection between government, the delivery of city services, and what it means to their lives. The converse is also true, right? If you don't believe that government can work for you, then you don't participate in the process, Jeff. And too many Philadelphians don't believe that government can work for them. And we're going to be working very hard to change that narrative.
What does this now look like in terms of convincing people who did not vote for you that your vision is the right one?
One, it means that we will be sitting down. Of course, you heard me mention all of the candidates for mayor of the city of Philadelphia and talking with them. We will also make sure that we continue to be in every community, communicating with stakeholders. Now, for those of you who know me, I'm a well-structured and I believe in organization, and I won't do anything haphazard. So if we are meeting with small business owners here in our city, I may do that by council district and have a meeting with small business owners per council district, faith-based leaders, business leaders here in our city, the philanthropic community. Why are all of these key stakeholders essential? Because we are not a monolith. And if anyone, you've heard me say throughout the campaign, and I'm not going to be a candidate who's concerned about being politically correct. I'm always going to give you my authentic self, no matter how much it pains some people, even when I speak about myself in third party. But let me say this. People want to know that you hear them. They do not want policy prescriptions being implemented, designed and implemented without knowing that you hear them. Now, while we're going to listen to all stakeholders, I also want you to know that there are going to be some people who are not going to like, some of my decision making. and or again the policy plans that I will be proffering that you will hear in much more detail as we proceed closer to the general election. But always know, no one will ever be able to say that Cherelle Parker did not hear them, even when we may agree to disagree. And I don't care who you were. I told you I wanted a coalition that transcended race, class, socioeconomic status, religion, gender, sexual orientation, identity, and we did just that. You all can banner about what percentage of what for each part of that coalition, but every part of what every constituency that I just described, they were a part of the Parker team, and I am extremely proud of it. But the election is over. Now it is time to get prepared to win the general election, right? And that means our Democratic Party, all of the stakeholders who helped us, those block captains and committee people and ward leaders who were on the ground. Never forget their work coupled with the other stakeholders, labor. We all know the building trades did an awesome job. Clearly, they were a strong foundation. The carpenters, SEIU, Local 427 and 403, out of the sanitation workers and the streets department. Can't think of the local Sincere and Aaron, but Fred Wright comes to mind. A local out of District Council 47. All of those folks who were an essential part of allowing us to have this victory, they're the foundation of the coalition. But now the coalition includes all of Philadelphia, and I won't have it any other way. Yes. I'm sorry.
How will you balance the need to hit the ground running and get this transition going while still facing another election?
Well, now, Pat, that is an essential question. One of the things that I am working on right now, because that structure is extremely important, and quite frankly, I can't wait until, when is the general elections? November the 7th? So, I can't wait to November the 8th to begin working to put all that we need to put in order together. So I'm working on actually building a formal structure outside of the politics, outside of my campaign structure that will actually give me the ability to staff up, because I can't do all of this alone. I will need staff to actually carry through the organization of the meetings with the stakeholders, plans that we have to put together. So we're working with some of the best and brightest lawyers in the city, and it was such a good question that you'll be hearing from me very soon with hopefully what will be the formal structure that we've put together. But we've been on that for a little bit now.
Cherelle, do you plan to debate? You were talking about not being politically correct, one of the things you talked about constitutional stop the threat. I'm working on coming up with a framework for how that'll be addressed part of this.
One of the things that you heard me say, that unconstitutional stop and frisk in the city is not legal, because Cherelle Parker formally introduced the legislation in our city to say that there is no place for unconstitutional stop and frisk. With that being said, Terry stops are what I wholeheartedly embrace as a tool that law enforcement needs to make the public safety of our city their number one priority. It is a legal tool. A crime must be committed, or they must know that it is going to be committed in order for them to have the just cause and reasonable suspicion to stop someone. They are called Terry stops. There are people who consistently want to use stop and frisk as because it's a very intense and quite frankly, it's painful, particularly for black people like me, right? And a mother of a 10-year-old black boy, and coming, living at the intersection of race and gender all of my life. I know what it's like, and I've seen what it's like, particularly when I've had black men, who I've loved and cared about, stopped, right, for no apparent reason other than the fact that they were black. They were black men. I know what that feels like. And again, we get through the general election, and under no circumstances will that kind of behavior be allowed to exist in the Parker administration. I just won't tolerate it. But I'm also going to make sure that Terry stops and every other legal tool that is needed, paired with great training, right? And zero tolerance for any misuse and or abuse of authority is available for our police department. I'm sorry? We will get through into a general election. I will then work formally with my campaign team, and we will decide what the parameters are for how that will go, but we will work on that then. Yes, Aldia. Well, for both former council members, Derek Green and Maria Quinones Sanchez, I value the fact that they not only suspended their campaigns, but after suspending their campaigns, they were intentional about endorsing my candidacy. And I always want to acknowledge them. They are thought leaders here in the city of Philadelphia who add great value. And specifically, what does that look like? We will figure out what that looks like in the future. But right now, I want Philadelphia to know that the two of them, you know, it's particularly when I think about the Latino community, you talk about the formula. I'm thinking about the stakeholders, Tina Tartaglione, and you know, you get in trouble, you start calling names, but my former colleague Angel Cruz and Danilo Burgos and Jose Harrell and Carlos, just so many people who were a part of helping to make that happen. But my former colleagues, they are extremely important, and I look forward to working with them in the future. Yes. I can't hear you.
How are you feeling about this historic building being the first woman male nominated in the city of
Many people have heard me state that after the results and we realized we won, that I wasn't excited when people said, oh, we're breaking glass ceilings, because for me, the breaking of glass ceilings, it is not what is giving people like me access to an opportunity. What's giving women, black women like me, access to an opportunity is when someone has laid a concrete path. And for me, that would be concrete pavers that will give a generation of girls, black girls, Latino girls, other girls of color, white girls, I don't care what kind of girls. And the girl dads, they like really are excited, right? I have 3 daughters and you have to come and meet my 3 daughters. So I'm really excited. It's not just the moms and the daughters, the girl dads are excited too. And I'm excited about it. But I'm also excited to know that I didn't get here alone, Tasha. I'm not Superwoman. You know, I stand on the shoulders of some women who generations ago, they could have been standing up as the Democratic nominee for mayor were it not for their, inability to raise the funds needed to compete with most of the time, men. Who had much more of a leg up as it related to fundraising, or people who were born wealthier than they were. So, of course, my boss lady, who is still alive, and mother mentor Marion Tasco, Augusta Clark, Roxanne Jones. I mean, I think about Anna Verna. I think about Joan Krajewski. I don't know whether or not any of you know who those women were. See Dolores Tucker. But I saw those women in live and in living color, and I saw them doing their work. So if I can find a way to add value, to motivate, inspire, and encourage a generation of girls to say, wow, no one can put me in a box, right? I really can be and do whatever it is I want to. That makes me feel really good. And to all of the girl dads, big shout outs, because I've been in Walmart, the drugstore, I've been in a lot of different places, seeing people's supermarket, and the girl dads have been like, come and take a picture with my daughter. So I'm like, okay, here I am. So thank you. Shout out to you girl dads too.
Assuming you're elected in November.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you explain a little more
Well, I thank you so very much for that question. It's been so interesting listening to people infer what it means without asking the question. So the one thing that it doesn't mean that I thought I made clear on the campaign trail is that our children would be sitting at a traditional school desk in a traditional classroom from 7:30 in the morning to 6 o'clock, at night with a traditional instructor. If that is how you interpreted my recommendation that this be something that we, explore and potentially use here in the city of Philadelphia, you've gotten it all wrong. Some of the things that you heard me talk about was school opening. This is not just for educational opportunity. These are also economic development issues. Schools open at 7:30, as early as 7:30 in the morning, because parents need to get to work. We forget. We tell parents we want them on a path to self-sufficiency, and we want to connect you to an employment opportunity that will, pay you a living wage, health care, retirement security. Oh, but by the way, school doesn't open up until 9 o'clock. Give me a break. Here. So we want school open as early as 7:30 and open as late as 6 p.m. And what do you want to see in those schools, Cherelle? I want to see everything that I see available, that was available when, I was in school, and some additional, especially when it comes to the technology in the financial literacy, the coding I want to see in school. But I also want to see the building trades. And that was a huge part of the platform that was so well embraced by Philadelphians from all walks of life, in understanding that all of our children are not interested in taking the traditional collegiate path to the future, and that they wanted to have access to those careers available in the building trades, and to have the building trades willing to, say, listen, we know that this is a part of your platform, and, we want to help you. And as a matter of fact, these are some ways. That gives us something to look forward to. So let's just talk about, when you think of year-round schooling under a Parker administration, and I was happy to see the superintendent talk about a potential pilot, because if you looked and read my plan as it was proffered, I talked about a pilot as well, and you get a chance to see what it would look like here in the city of Philadelphia. That is a certain number of schools at the elementary, middle, and high school levels, but I'm really looking forward to it. And that's why, again, the conversation with Governor Shapiro, our legislative leaders, I've spoken with all of them in Harrisburg. That's why that relationship is so important. And quite frankly, a relationship, the bipartisan relationship in Harrisburg, is extremely helpful. And this is going to be the last question. Last question? Yes, ma'am.
Discussion during this campaign, the primary campaign, with so many candidates about ranked choice voting and whether the city should go to that. You obviously won under the current system. Are you open to potential changes that would add something like ranked choice voting or a runoff?
Let me just say that right now we have a system in place that says that the man or woman who achieves the most or acquires the most votes is the winner of that election, and I support that process. I will take a look at lots of other prescriptions in the future, but right now this is the environment that mayors in the city of Philadelphia have competed under for the past 100 years, and Cherelle Parker has the potential to become the 100th mayor in the city of Philadelphia, and it will be the democratic structure upon which, if I'm fortunate to win the general election, that I will have achieved such, and if there are other ideas for us to look at in the future, of course I am. But I want to also be very clear that I am, I'm a mom to a boy who's 10 years old. And I also was a child athlete. I ran track, and I was a cheerleader. And I also don't believe in giving trophies just because. Everyone doesn't get a trophy. Dignity doesn't come from everyone getting a trophy. Dignity comes when you work hard in a race, right? And you run, and a race of any kind, no matter what it is. And so that prescription is one that I support. But as usual, you know, you're never going to hear me say that my mind is closed to any thought or idea. I'm always open to hearing other ideas and thoughts. Listen, I want to thank you all so very much for being here today. And you will talk with us much more. Thank you so very much and have a good one.